Buying a house is often called the best financial decision you'll ever make. But what if that advice is costing millions of people hundreds of thousands of dollars? Before you sign a mortgage, there's one calculation almost nobody does, and it could redefine whether buying a home actually makes financial sense for you. Consider the sheer scale of this commitment. For most of us, buying a home represents the largest single financial transaction we will ever undertake. It is a decision that dictates where you work, how much you save, and exactly when you can afford to retire. You are essentially borrowing 5 or 6 times your annual income to purchase a single, immobile asset, a move that anchors your entire financial existence to one specific plot of land for the next 30 years. Yet, despite the complexity, we are pushed into this decision by societal momentum rather than math. From a young age, we're told that property is the only real path to wealth. Our parents, our neighbors, and even our banks repeat the same deeply ingrained cliché. The narrative is simple. Every rent check is a lost opportunity, while every mortgage payment is a step toward freedom. This narrative, however, ignores a series of significant financial leaks. Home ownership is built upon a foundation of unrecoverable costs, expenses that leave your pocket every month and never return as equity. When you buy a house, you aren't just buying an asset. You are also buying a long list of obligations that provide zero return on investment. If you don't account for these, your investment might actually be a liability in disguise. To find the truth, we have to look past the emotional comfort of owning a set of keys and run a strict, long-term mathematical simulation. We need to compare the life of a homeowner against a renter who behaves with the exact same level of financial discipline. Only by stripping away the sentiment can we see which path actually produces more wealth over a lifetime. Relying on outdated social norms without doing this math carries a high price. If you misunderstand the relationship between debt, equity, and opportunity cost, you risk committing your capital to a path that builds wealth at a much slower rate than the alternatives available to you. Let's begin our simulation at year 0. We have 2 individuals with identical financial profiles. Both have saved up exactly $100,000 in liquid cash. One decides to use that money to enter the housing market, while the other decides to remain a renter. To keep the math fair, they must both start with the same resources and end with the same goal, maximizing their net worth. The buyer's cash pile takes an immediate hit. They aren't just putting down a deposit, they are paying for the privilege of the transaction. Between title insurance, loan origination fees, and government taxes, they might lose 5% of the home's value instantly to unrecoverable closing costs. That money doesn't go into the house. It simply disappears the moment the ink dries. Once the buyer moves in, the monthly payments begin, but they aren't building much wealth. Because of how mortgage amortization works, the bank takes its profit first. In the early years of a 30-year loan, the vast majority of every check goes toward interest. It is a fee paid to the bank for the use of their money, and it adds $0 to the homeowner's actual net worth. Then there are the hidden 3: property taxes, home insurance, and maintenance. Property taxes are essentially a permanent rent paid to the government, often totaling thousands of dollars a year. Insurance protects the bank's interest, not just yours. These are unrecoverable costs that the renter simply does not have to pay. We must also account for the inevitable decay of physical property. Roofs leak, HVAC systems fail, and plumbing eventually bursts. Experts suggest setting aside 1% of the home's value every year for maintenance. Adding in HOA fees for modern developments, the homeowner faces a steady stream of capital outflow that never increases their ownership stake. Now, consider the renter's opportunity cost. While the buyer's cash is locked in the walls of a house, the renter takes that same $100,000 down payment and invests it into a broad market index fund. Historically, the stock market has offered higher long-term returns than residential real estate, and more importantly, that money remains liquid and compounding. The renter's advantage grows monthly. Because they aren't paying for property taxes, interest, or a new roof, their total housing cost is often lower than the buyer's total expenditure. The renter doesn't spend that extra cash. They invest the exact difference between their rent and the buyer's total costs. Every month, they are adding fuel to their compounding engine. This creates a significant diversion of capital. While the homeowner is busy maintaining a physical asset and paying off bank interest, The renter is building a diversified portfolio of the world's most profitable companies. This shift in where the money goes changes everything about the long-term wealth calculation. Fast forward to the 10-year mark. At this stage, the homeowner is often frustrated. They've made 120 payments, but because of those front-loaded interest costs and the initial hit of the closing fees, their actual equity is surprisingly low. Meanwhile, the renter's index fund has had a decade to compound, likely putting their net worth well ahead of the buyers. As we reach year 20, the gap begins to narrow. The homeowner is now paying significantly more toward the principal of their loan every month, and the power of leverage is working in their favor. If the house has increased in value, that appreciation is being calculated on the total price of the home, not just the portion they own. Of course, these lines aren't straight. Real-world variables like localized property appreciation and national inflation play a massive role. In some decades, the housing market booms, in others, it stagnates. Similarly, the stock market can have lost decades. The outcome of our simulation depends heavily on the specific environment of those 30 years. We finally reach the 30-year showdown. The homeowner makes their final payment. Suddenly, their largest monthly expense vanishes. They now own a physical asset worth millions of dollars completely outright. For many, this is the ultimate symbol of financial success, a paid-off home and a secure place to live. But look at the renter. Over those same 30 years, their initial investment and their monthly contributions have been working quietly. Thanks to the law of compound interest, their portfolio has systematically snowballed. Because they never had to pay for a new roof or property taxes, they were able to keep more of their capital working in the market for longer. In many historical scenarios, the math reveals a surprising result. The renter's liquid investment portfolio can actually exceed the total value of the buyer's paid-off house. Even without owning a single brick, the renter has ended up wealthier because they prioritized the growth of liquid capital over the ownership of a physical asset. This proves that when you apply the logic of opportunity cost, time and consistent investing can outperform real estate. It's not that the house was a bad investment, it's just that the alternative was more efficient. So, is renting throwing money away? Clearly not. Renting is simply paying for a service, shelter, while keeping your capital free to seek higher returns elsewhere. For the average person, home ownership is less of an investment and more of a forced savings account. It works because most people lack the discipline to invest extra cash every month, but will always pay their mortgage to avoid foreclosure. There are, of course, times when buying is the superior choice. If you value the stability of knowing you won't be affected, if you want to customize your living space, or if you live in a market where rents are skyrocketing while home values appreciate at record rates, buying is a powerful move for both your lifestyle and your balance sheet. On the other hand, renting is often the smarter financial play if you value career mobility, live in an expensive city where the cost to buy is double the cost to rent, and most importantly, if you have the discipline to actually invest the money you save. In these cases, the renter isn't losing, they're winning the long-term wealth game. The decision ultimately rests on a single comparison: whether this purchase will increase your long-term net worth more than the options you're giving up. You have to run the numbers for your specific city, your interest rate, and your expected length of stay. Buying a house isn't automatically a good investment, and renting isn't automatically a bad one. The smartest financial decision isn't the one everyone else makes. It's the one that gives your money the best chance to grow over time. If you enjoy evidence-based financial documentaries that break down life's biggest money decisions using math instead of myths, subscribe for more videos. Every week, we'll help you make smarter financial decisions, one calculation at a time.